bitch. Let's go.
Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Tui.
And this is Invasion of the Potty Snatchers. Let's get to it, motherfuckers.
Purple brain.
Purple brain. Purple brain.
It sounds so good.
It sounds so good. So, all right, we've been singing about it. Now let's talk about it. Our new zombie series. We're seemingly calling Purple Brain because
yes, and everyone loves it.
Of
It's
anything else, it's on tape. And the whole idea is we're going to talk not just about zombie movies, but we're going to get awesome guests on from all around the fucking world. And the hitch is they get to pick the movie and we have to suffer through. So our first guest is going to be Don Shanahan himself. Don, talk to us and tell us what you've chosen for us to watch.
Fellas, this is all my fault. I chose this is 4 years before Night of the Living Dead and George Romero. I went old school. This is The Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price from 1964.
Golden age of television and movies.
Yeah.
So, Don, what's your relationship with this film?
I saw this film I kind of on a lark where somebody's like, hey, you gotta watch some Vincent Price and get a little bit better at, just knowing what he's all about. And as not being a big horror guy, like I can go old school and find some old Vincent Price stuff because, my first Vincent Price exposure was like Egghead in the old Batman TV show, which is great. But then after that, it was like Edward Scissorhands. So someone's like, oh, you need to watch this one. And it was right around when, of course, Will Smith's I Am Legend was coming out, and people are like, oh, this is the third time this novel's been done. I'm like, oh, really? And Charlton Heston had the Omega Man, and then you had to go all the way back to this for Vincent Price. I'm like, I'm going to go old school and watch the Vincent Price one. And at the time, and I realize this is still the case now, it's been on the public domain since 1980, where there's no copyright on this thing. And it's on YouTube, like full movie, couple of ad breaks. And that was the way I digested it, was putting it on YouTube. And I didn't have to find some niche disc. I didn't have to uncover a treasure hunt to find a lost VHS tape or DVD. You could just go on YouTube and watch the whole 97-minute movie or 87-minute movie. And
I just watched Body Snatchers from 1983 for an episode we did on our 50th episode on Body Snatchers last week. Yeah. And I found it on YouTube as well. It's crazy. Yeah. Like there's a fucking Noel was saying how weird it is now that you can just fucking find full-length movies on YouTube.
It's a relatively new phenomenon because I was watching some of the Phantasm. My missus, we're going through 80s horror, and she's like, I've never seen the Phantasm, and I couldn't find anywhere that I could stream it or something. And then I just went on YouTube and typed it in, and Yippie's always very good.
I do that too. It's wonderful.
And then it was just there, just hid, just fucking hid.
It's in your blood, Shanahan. You can't help it.
we are greedy Americans. We will steal everything for free.
No, it's your Irish blood. It's your Irish blood
too. Yeah, Limerick.
Real pirates.
The Limerick comes out.
Yeah,
but no. I realized I was doing some homework on it this weekend, where some kind of paperwork thing had this lose its rights really early on, where it's been in the public domain since 1980, whereas most movies and properties, it's like 70 years until something gets done to the point where you have to give it up. So yeah, I saw it on YouTube, loved it. I like Vincent Price. I like that tone to where that goes. But yeah, that's my history of it. Recently, I had never read the original book, I Am Legend. Book. And that's the thing. Like about a year and a half ago, I read the book, from Richard Matheson. And once I read that, I'm like, damn, this thing goes hard. Harder, way harder than Will Smith's movie does, way harder than Heston's really cheesy movie does. And then I got back to this one. I'm like, this one of all the movies did the best job at trying to match the book, even though you were never going to get as hard as the book. But yeah, I was impressed.
Yeah, the chapter with the dog in the book is heart-wrenching. Yeah. So well written. But Noel, do you have any pre-existing relationship with this franchise? Like, I know you've obviously probably seen I Am Legend, Will Smith, everyone's fucking seen it. I haven't seen Omega Man yet, but I will definitely watch it now because I'm a completionist that can't help myself. But Noel, what's your story with this movie? Have you ever seen it before now?
I never even really seen I Am Legend. I didn't hear great things, so I never felt the need to. It was one of these,
I was like, I was Ali ooping Noel, and Noel just like walking off the court.
yeah. It just never. I seen somebody sent me a picture of the where at the vampire thing near the end, and I went, no.
There's there's an alternate ending on the DVD that's better than what was in the movie, and it goes soft. It goes really soft. So
no, I don't like the mushy ending. I like the one where he has the grenade. I prefer that one.
I do too.
Yeah.
Like Go Big or Go Home. I've actually seen the endings. Like it's an old film now. With how quick the world actually moves. I've seen every clip of it. I've seen the alternate endings because I've even seen lists of alternate endings that were better than the one they used and all this kind of thing. And I mean, go dark. I really don't see the appeal of not. I mean, this film, for all its faults, went dark.
It did.
Yeah, it was the black and white Noel. It was black and white.
That's right. But no, I heard recently they're gonna try to do an I Am Legend 2. I'm like, oh, come on.
How?
So I am
Legender.
Yeah, well, it's Will Smith and Michael B. Jordan together.
Yeah, like, so what they're going to do? They're going to retroactively just use the smushy ending.
I guess so.
Yeah, I guess so.
Like whatever radio,
or like he survives the suicide because thing.
But that scene is so powerful. It's like the best part about the whole fucking movie. Like the most heartbreaking thing about the movie is obviously when the dog, the thing with the dog, and later on, that's such a powerful movie because the one thing he's clung on to throughout the entire movie is his existence, and he finally gives it up. That's the fucking the whole fucking thing about the movie. To take that away, just to be such a fucking lame cop out.
Yeah, and then the ending in the book where it's like, no, like put on trial for all you've done. Suicide pills are your only exit, and you're screwed.
Yeah,
it's
legend. I love
so
that.
Good.
Oh, it's so good. But so Noel, is this your first time seeing it? It's the first time I've ever seen it. Like I only read the book. It was recommended to me by Owen, me and a friend of ours, Noel, and I only read the book same as you, Don, in the past like 18 months, give or take, because I started reading a lot heavier to try get better at writing. It's a lot. It's the one thing anyone's ever says. If you want to be better at writing, you have to do a lot more reading. So like that's why I kind of got into these kind of genre books. There's operating the same word I am trained to. And when I got this recommended to me, and it's quite a short story, but the way it's constructed, it's so well paced and stuff like that. So like, what did you think of, like, Noel, you haven't read the book, but like, what did you think of the tone and how they captured the adaptation from the book to the big screen for the Vincent Price movie, Don?
Hard to say again without the reference of the book, so I can't unfortunately speak too much to that. But I do remember thinking that it did focus very much so on the mundane.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that he was in like a lot of mortal danger, he was still extremely bored. Even when the first time you see the neighbor kind of guy going Morgan, and he's coming over and he's ripping off the planks that he's put on the door, and he's just sitting there having a drink, just kind of like.
He's got the shittiest barricade. Of barricades.
I think it's like my barricade needs to last exactly a night. And then I need to make a barricade that can last exactly a night. And that'll keep me busy. And I did seem to have, like, even though you're in mortal danger, boredom was the thing that seemed to be really, really getting them.
That's what they say.
And it was. The boredom. And especially when your life takes on less value, especially if you've lost everyone, your life would take on less value. So you just be sitting there kind of going, well, if this is it, this is it.
Do you think it captured the stakes though? Like, it didn't seem.
No, it didn't. It didn't have an actor with a wide enough repertoire. I think
that's true.
Have the range. Like, the capture really just the absolute. Like, it's a depraved existence. That he was living.
The fighting was amazing. Like the way he got away. Like, he just shimmied away from vampires.
It's shimmies and shoves. That's probably one thing the Will Smith movie gets right. Is like, you got a real, I mean, I know it's modern technology because they raise the years of what it takes place, but like, that's a barricaded fortress of a setup he's got going. He still has the mundane, but you also see him just hollow. Like he really, like you said, with the range, like Will Smith could just do more with acting range than Vincent Price, where
he's a great actor. He's just simply a terrific actor. Will Smith is a terrific actor.
He sells the emotionality you need to do that, where it's almost like Hanks on Castaway, where like you really believe he's alone and frazzled, and not just frazzled, but like broken. Like that you believe. You don't get that as much about Vincent Price. You see him more, like you said, annoyed. Like, like when he walks up to the lathe the first time to make another wood stake, he's like kind of half-heartedly doing it. He's like, whatever, like really bored with whatever he's stuck doing versus what Will Smith was doing. It's just the cool part about Price is because his repertoire is more the dark stuff, like when the movie has to go dark or when his feelings get a little harsher, he can sell that part.
Yeah.
Because of his
he just has that kind of
yeah. Because like that's where Will Smith can't. Like it's like, oh, you can't be mad at Will Smith. You're such a cute guy. You know, he can't convincingly go dark the way Price can.
But the way Vincent Price though tried to get the dog to come to him, and then the survivor later on, he's like, he's like he's lost all kind of like social skills whatsoever. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know. It was just I laughed a lot at this movie. It was one thing I did enjoy was the different interpretations people have of different things, like the vampires, which are almost more zombie like in this.
Completely zombie like, no increased abilities of any description. I'm sure a bit harder to kill or whatever, but no increased abilities whatsoever. Very sluggish.
Yeah.
I didn't really get that. You know, if there's one thing we're to understand, just say they're zombies. Zombies is fine. Zombies that can't move during the day. It's fine, you know.
But they've never had, like I said, this is 4 years before Night of the Living Dead, where this was virgin territory here, where no one had kind of ever gone this way, slow, methodical or otherwise. And I guess Romero's been on the record to say, like, I lifted my idea of zombies a lot from this little shitty movie, and
that doesn't surprise me. Yeah. Because what they have, even if they don't have intelligence or organization, what they have is relentlessness. And numbers. And there's something to be said for that. There just is. There's something to be said for an enemy that is absolutely relentless and unafraid and has numbers. It is.
And the book does that better, where the original book, they do have abilities and they are as fast and as powerful as they look to be. And then when the elevated ones show up at the end, the more dominant, whatever you want to call it, mutated species of half and half, like those guys are ferocious and scary as fuck in the book.
Yeah, the best thing about the book, and like the movie kind of touches on it, that like even I Am Legend kind of touches on it a little bit too, that he in a lot of ways has become the monster. He is the outcast, that like in a way, like it's the old trope, we're all a hero of our own stories. But like in the end of the day, like when you have like a rabid dog outside your house and we're all humans, like the dog doesn't mean us any harm. It's just a dog being a dog. In the end of the day, we're still going to see it in a bad way. And in the end of the day, he doesn't kind of mean him any bad will. But in the end of the day, he's just a human trying to survive, and he's trying to kill all them and shit. And he doesn't think to the point that there actually still some sort of humanity left in him. And he doesn't see himself in any other way than some sort of heroic figure. Like, so like that's what I love about it, that it kind of shows you that, like, from different aspects, that like you often just show the hero kind of thing, that it shows really that he has been killing these people indiscriminately and there actually is still some humanity left in him, and he never gave any thought to, because he just saw them as like a virus or something, you know, that needs to be exterminated.
He was just picking them up, literally. These ones later. But now I must get gas. Once we go into this fucking truck that's full of gas with one jerry can. Just filling that up. Probably like 2/3 of that was getting you to the fucking truck. Like, drive the truck home or something.
Exactly. Park it next door, you know.
And I mean, The Walking Dead so much, like they'd find like one episode to find a truck literally filled with water, and they just like take a few things and then they leave the truck on the highway. Like straight away, I'm like, let's figure out how to get this fucking truck driving. That's the only thing.
Build a bigger garage.
Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, you can even live in that truck. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be like,
I laugh at, like, they're still, as much as they Price's voiceover and even the production value of the movie, like, or the production design of the movie, like, try to create this desolate, empty, and they filmed this in Italy, so it's out in Rome. They do a decent job for an old movie of like making it look really empty. Like, you get highways and overpasses and the bodies in the streets. Like, there's enough details to make it really look empty. And I know CGI helped Will Smith like make it empty look in New York with like lions and leaves and plants and shit. But like this movie does it kind of old school and practical. But like when you get to that, what I laugh about still is like you still have like movie shortcuts of convenience. Like I've never seen in my life, fellas, a mirror store. Have you? Like, no. You know, Sanderson's mirrors, you know, like, oh, come to, I need a mirror. There's a store with all of them for me. You know, like
that'd be such a pain to run.
Yeah. Or like 3 years later, 3 years later, there's existing garlic in a refrigerator. Like, I don't think it's gonna make it. You know?
Do you remember when he just throws the garlic at your one?
Yeah. So like some of that stuff it has its cheesiness of shortcuts, but for the most part, like what sells the drama and stakes for the movie, at least for this movie, is that Price voiceover really helps. Like it sets up
the voice. You just have to respect the voice.
It's got a very silent movie, radio drama type aspect.
It does.
Like, you know,
it plays well, but you get the circumstances, you get the mundanity, the routine, getting to the man. Like you see his mindset from that. I mean, and I think that helps because one, Price has a great voice, like we all compliment, but he's also not the best, physical actor. When like if you take away the voiceover of this movie, you just see kind of a befuddled old man that kind of dodders around his place. But the voiceover shows the frustration of like, I smell the garlic. It's not good. I toss it away. I'm near this. My windows. Like the voiceover kind of. Some people, I'm sure someone around is like, "Oh, that's over exposition," but here it helps because Price can't do the rest.
Exactly. Yeah. You see where his wife died, and he was absolutely, completely, and totally put out by it. The inconvenience. It was just like,
darn.
Do you remember when he
what
realizes
am I gonna do?
He stays in her mausoleum for too long, and is it her mausoleum or something? And in the book, that scene is so hypertension. It's fucking incredible, that race against the clock, and you can feel it in every fucking little word. And in this, it felt like it's like, oh no, I forgot to go home. It's dark now.
Yeah.
They'll be everywhere.
Yeah, and it's like soccer shoves of getting zombies off you. Like it's not that hard. You just got to park the car.
I just love that the way he just shimmies the fucking safety every single time. Like it's incredible. But like sometimes you just kind of have to look at we recently just covered Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original from 1956, and even though all this shit looks corny and cheesy to us now, you kind of have to appreciate the era it came from and the style it was trying to incorporate. And one thing I liked about this is something that Body Snatchers did was it went with that kind of noir feel. Like it's kind of corny, but like you can understand exactly what they were going with. The kind of like the voiceover, I think, because a lot of the times back then they probably had some limitations on how much they can actually record while they were doing the scenes. So the voiceovers and shit like that, even though they're kind of cheesy, they're like they're really necessary. But as you said, because of Vincent Price's limitations in terms of the physicality he can bring to a role, the voiceovers are actually very important to this movie because they give a lot of credence, or they give a lot of depth to scenes that look like an old man just doddering around a little bit looking for gas,
And like the scenes and choices of where he goes, like from a noir, like all those scenes in the church, they cast enough shadow where, like you said, like his blackened heart and like the symbolism of like just the walk up to that church, which is a really gorgeous Catholic church in Rome, like with the steps and all that. Like they start to cast enough shadow there in a black and white movie to emulate sunrise and sunset, where you still convincingly have the dark, but at the same time, the threat of not quite dark, but then, the shade and shadow of human mood is there even in those church scenes and stuff. So it is well done. It's not the coolest and sharpest noir thing in the world, but I appreciate that flavor there.
Yeah, same. I did say after watching Body Snatchers just recently, the 56 one, that the 56 one did have like a of its time and not of its time thing, and this film more so just had an of its time thing.
Yeah, sure. You bet.
You know what I mean? It didn't. And that's fine as well, to be honest with you. I don't need something to be Avatar or something which was extremely future thinking, and even in just the way we approach technology and not everything has to be that. And in fact, to be kind of annoying if everything was. So it's more of a statement than a judgment call, but it did feel like that kind of era where you wanted them to act in a way that it could work on a stage.
Yes, sir.
I always felt that. Everyone enter and stuff, but don't chew up the seat. Like do this and be kind of corny.
Hit your marks.
Hit your marks. Very important that you hit your marks. And this felt of that. Again, even when they're like the zombies are attacking them, like sorry, I'm saying zombies.
Yeah, they're pretty much.
It's kind of like. I'm trying to eat you. A shove simply not going to do it, buddy.
It's like what Don says. Like this is before George Romero gave a word to it, put a name on it. This is before the zombie kind of entered the zeitgeist. So like
so essentially there wasn't.
Yeah, because zombie I think comes from Haitian lore or something like that originally, or something like that. The word does, but like I just think that like it shows you one thing I love about horror, and one thing I love about just storytelling in every sense is that the different iterations people have, and even before they knew what a zombie was, they tried to kind of explain it by using what's the closest thing you have to this is the undead, which is a vampire, and so you call it a vampire even though it's clearly got zombie characteristics. And it's cool to see, like, even well beyond the years of Bram Stoker who came up with the whole Dracula lore based on Vlad the Impaler and all this shit, that like in this era that this is really the genesis of the zombie genre, even though it's actually a vampire movie, which is kind of cool, you know.
Yeah, it's admittedly why I picked it. I'm like, let me go old school, but then even go old schooler than Romero with this little weird little thing. And it's fun to see it kind of like, you could see, like you said, the seeds being planted for what could be. And now we're at a point where, thanks to Walking Dead and a billion movie wannabes, like we're kind of zombied out 10 years later, aren't we? You know?
Yeah, I think even The Walking Dead now is starting to see it, even though we're going to see so many spin-offs and shit. Like, I don't know, I think right now, zombie movies are kind of gone, but zombie TV series are a bit more prevalent. You know, that kind of
like long form, like you said in the other shows, like long form storytelling. You get something going, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what Robert Kirkman always said, that what fascinated him about the zombie movies was not just the movie itself, but what happened at the end of the movie. Like, what is it like living in a post-apocalyptic zombie world for an extended period time and telling that story? And that's how The Walking Dead was born, you know. So like there is a lot of interesting things, and one thing I like about this is that you can actually see the aesthetic inspiration that people took from this movie, because the one thing we've seen in zombie movies throughout is bodies strewn around the place, this complete societal wasteland, you know what I mean? And like all of this kind of the aesthetic appeals from this movie really bled into, as you said, George A. Romero said he took inspiration from this, and you can see it in like the original Dawn of the Dead and stuff like that, that it shares a lot of the same kind of DNA as Last Man on Earth, you know, even though it's a bit more raw.
Could this, I know the 60s wasn't the time they were going to do this, but could I Am Legend, the book that this movie goes for, this would be a great miniseries, because you can spend more time in those routines, in the circumstances of it all, and then still build to that really awful and hard ending. You know, this would be a cool 10-episode miniseries somewhere.
Yeah, I think right now what you're going to see is, just because of the Will Smith influence in his planned sequel, that's going to go a completely different way, and I think we're probably going to get further and further away from the book, unfortunately. But the thing about that is, even though it's an unfortunate thing, we might actually get to see it, even though you won't have the I Am Legend name. Someone might be able to go in and actually adapt the story directly from the book, and it'd be completely different from the movie, and you could just you know, call it The Last Man on Earth again, you know what I mean? Like, you know,
who calls a film The Last Man on Earth when I Am Legend?
I know.
It's maybe the 50s weren't ready for it, you know.
Probably
because back then, I feel like the films were very wordy sometimes. You know, Plan 9 from Outer Space. It was like The Last Man on Earth. And the name is supposed to tell you something. The name is supposed to tell you something about the film, like it's killer this from this planet. But like I Am
exposition
Legend,
in the title.
It's exposition in the title, and I guess that's what it is. I don't think there's a mystery, but I would just like go, I just can't believe anybody in the 50s wasn't cool enough to go, I fucking love that name. I am fucking legend. I love it.
I think another thing that happens sometimes when these things like science fiction and stuff like this can be timeless, because the circumstances are there where you can adapt it to any time, but maybe because of like where this book, well, especially this one, in my opinion, like if you were to make it again, I know Will Smith did the modern thing, like I would love to see this be done and then go ahead and set it in the 50s, like do a period piece zombie thing, where, because today we have the shortcuts things to like Zombieland, where like double tap bullets to the head, and like, we all have the secret ways of beating zombies now with modern this and modern that.
Who hasn't had the conversation? How do you think you're doing a zombie apocalypse? How do you think you're doing a vampire apocalypse? Extremely badly. How do you think you're doing a zombie apocalypse?
Well, vampire apocalypse is easier a little bit though, because like you have 12 hours nearly of every day. Go to Iceland or somewhere where it's daytime for 6 months.
That's
it. But this is one of those. If someone were to do this again and adapt Mathinson's book, I would love to see it be done in period piece instead of like doing I Am Legend again. I just ran into another movie that kind of tried the modern thing, and I think it fell on his face because it did was that new erotic thriller that's out right now with Ben Affleck and Ana de Armas, Deepwater. It's a Patricia Highsmith book, same person who did like The Talented Mr. Ripley, and it was written and set in the 50s with infidelity and murder and getting away with crimes and stuff like that. And now, you know, in 2012, we have all the forensics in the world where no one would get away with it, you know, but back then, you know, there was doubt, there was, you know, it was taboo to do the things you did, whether it was the erotic stuff or the murder stuff. So it would just play better then than trying to modernize it now.
Yeah, I think some films actually hamstring themselves by modernizing the stories, because what made the story so unique and so cool is because of the period of time that they're crafting or creating in, because all of those elements went into how the story was like structured or manufactured or whatever, because the technology at the time or whatever, like as you say, like you have forensic analysis and all this shit, and it takes away from a story that you can really have layers and intrigue because there's a lack of technology, you know.
I feel like
you know what? Sorry, this is such a stupid thing to say, but I can't remember.
Perfect.
But here we go. But what's the Pixar film where the girl turns into a big red panda?
Right now, Turning Red.
Turning Red. Yeah, I watched that the other night. I mean, now we're horror.
Pixar's amazing.
So I said, Shanita, I'm breaking the mold here, because she was a bit down in the dumps, and so was I. Said, no, we need to stop watching downer shit. I'm going to throw on something really lighthearted. We chew on that, and it was based in 2002.
Yeah.
Which not like a million, not like back in the 80s, not back in the 70s, not back in the 60s, but 2002, where we had all of the modern, but it had all this modern stuff. The girls were like huge into their boy bands, and they were online trying to buy tickets and all that kind of normal stuff. Yeah, but just simply didn't have smartphones. And I remember saying to her, you know what this is? This is just simply,
what a difference.
They were just sitting there going, if we just could get away from that fucking thing of everybody constantly on their phone. And he goes, but like at the same time, I want all the modern trappings. I want it to be like a boy band, and the girls can actually buy their own tickets so they can go behind their parents' back a little bit, and all of this kind of stuff. And I said, well, dude, somebody just said, dude, I guess the sweet spot is the very early 90s. I don't know what else to tell you. And then he went, all right, the early 90s. And I seen it. And I remember going, that's what they did. And it made sense.
Somebody did the math recently. Like if you were to remake Dazed and Confused today, because what was that, 95, making fun of like 1978 or whatever it was. Like if you made Dazed and Confused today about the last days of a long gone era of high school, it'd be 2004. I was like, Jesus, we're old.
Oh, yeah. It's
if 2004 is the ancient past, you know.
Yeah. The 90s are the 80s now. Like the 90s are the 80s.
Dude, I lived in Vienna in that year. I was a completely different person.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I was able to like do things like live in Vienna.
and that's an extra layer you realize in Turning Red is like, we're watching the little girl, you know, learn to be a young woman and all that. And like, when you fast forward 20 years, if you were to have like a long distance modern day sequel to Turning Red, that girl's probably a mother now of her own. Like that's crazy. And yet we're sitting here like,
because she was 13. Because I even did the math. I was even making fun of 33. Myself. Yeah, she would be the age of my fiance, and I'm old. I'd be older than her.
Same age as me, pretty much.
Yeah, same age as you. Yeah,
and we're calling that a modern movie in 02.
And you have a 10-year-old, Vin?
10-year-old, yeah, that hates me.
So you know what I mean.
It's a thing.
Amazing.
She's met you in fairness, but
no, but it is. But I didn't say she was wrong, Noel.
I do like even time I'm watching horror films, and it's always like, oh, it's based in now. I said, wait for the girl to kind of go, I can't get any reception up here. I just think you have to,
It's we're like our own tropes now, which is crazy.
Yeah, we are. We 100% are.
It's like Noel, when we did Sputnik, like just to see a Soviet era, like fucking
phenomenal film.
Movie, like
recommend.
Yeah, it shows like, even if it's a modern movie, and I know this wasn't a modern movie that was made back in 1964, like it just showed, like if you try to grab the era or certain eras, that you can really get away from these easy outs, and like you can actually create a lot of plot devices without having to mention anything. If you just throw back in the 60s, no internet, it's very easy to get isolated. That's what made Texas Chainsaw Massacre so terrifying. It was very easy to get lost in rural areas of America back then, stuff like that. Like, and that's what I loved about this movie, that like he had no technology. He couldn't really interact with the outside world or find out what's going on. Did he have a radio or something?
He had a ham radio trying to communicate with other stations.
That's right. Yeah, that was it.
But that's it. You know, he had record player for music.
Yeah,
to entertain. No,
but not even like
soft jazz. Call it.
He wouldn't
even.
You could
go like in the book. It was like symphony music. Like he was the composer guy. Yeah.
Bob Marley.
You could go. You could go like at least you could go your VHSs or your DVDs if everything went down. But like back then, you would have had absolutely nothing.
As long as we had electricity today, we would never be bored, stuck in our own homes for a zombie apocalypse. We'd be like,
I the lockdown proved that.
DVD. You know?
The lockdown proved that. Like we were kind of frustrated, but we were never bored.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
but you're right. Like you're dead right. Like if you want a movie that has descent into madness and some stakes, you do have to go older where it was harder to get by. And rewatching last minute, like I watched it last night just to get back into it. It was just so much more interesting and cool because you're watching it knowing, man, he's not going to get out of this without a lot of help here, a lot of help there, or doing his own devices, whatever you want to call it. And I like that. It's just way more interesting that way than click, easy remote this, easy remote that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also kind of always makes you think about how spoiled you actually are. Do you see what people will do to survive when it comes to a pinch? I always feel like that's a good way of going to that mirror store and holding up a mirror to society.
Yeah. Like we joked off the air, like here in the American pandemic, the first thing that sold out was toilet paper. And I'm just laughing like that's what the world's going to come to. We're not going to bite, scratch, and claw for art or history or gas. We're going to bite, scratch, and claw and kill each other for fucking toilet paper.
The joke I used more times than I'm proud of was that there was an awful lot more hand sanitizer and less bullets than I was expecting.
Because movies have brought us up on the fact that, if that ever happens, we're going to have to go raid gun stores, especially in America. Where the gun epidemic here is crazy. We're like,
what?
Yeah, that we'd have.
Have you heard about that?
No, I couldn't hear anything over the sound of gunfire.
Yeah. But here we've been taught for 1,000 years you got to be armed to the teeth to ever survive. And nope. Toilet paper, hand sanitizer, we're gonna be fine.
I was laughing because like people have running water and they're worried with toilet paper. What can people not like wash their ass in the shower? Like, come on, folks.
A poop in the shower, like it's normal.
Poop in the shower, what? No, quite the middleman.
Just get a bigger drink. You're good to
go. Hope you're prepared to smush that down, Noel.
Right?
Yeah, like a broom handle, and good.
Yeah. Well, you've seen enough American movies where like people who walk dogs here who are picking up shit in bags and putting it in trash cans, like that's the inconvenience of the world, is dog shit on the ground. And like,
absolutely. But that's it. I always said the thing that taught me how absolutely spoiled we are, and it was always this kind of, everyone has this watershed moment. And for mine, it was that I went up to get a few beers. I said, you know what, I'll stretch my legs, I'll walk. And I had an iPod at the time. And I had, I think, a huge iPod, like 150, 160 gigs, something big. Yeah. And I had over 20,000 songs on it. I got to the off license, about a 15-minute walk. I hadn't listened to a song. I was looking through it, trying to pick the song.
Yeah.
Now, I'm old enough to remember having a Walkman, and I had like 3 albums. Yeah, so I made that shit work. I made that shit work for months.
Exactly.
And it was like Metallica, Megadeth and Simon and Garfunkel. So we're talking like we just have to pick something generic and and go for it. And this film, the guy was like, his day was like surviving, nothing, no joy, no fun.
It wasn't even surviving; it was existence. Because like he wasn't like there wasn't some big fight to fight for. You know what I mean? He was just
maintaining supplies, like, and the book, I have to admit, the book goes a lot farther, where like it's like the generator and the gas are a big deal, the food part is a big deal, and the search for this and the search for that was a little more involved in the book, but the movie did a nice job of, like, I know super convenient, but oil truck, but but for the most part it made it seem pretty dire, and
it just lacked the intensity of the book, isn't it? That's the difference.
The book is way scarier.
Like what did you?
They're screaming his name outside of his house and baring their breasts, like it was more sexualized too as well. So super. And I think isn't that in the book where the woman he takes in does come on to him a whole bunch and like super more sexualized in the book? And I know you can't get away with that in 64, but
because like she's pretty much an undercover agent kind of thing, isn't it? Like she's an infiltrator.
Does this movie sell the twist really good?
Not as good as the book, but
I agree.
Yeah, it's because I know, like in the book, he felt like he was like, it wasn't that he was just fed up with living, that he was just done. He's just done with his existence and how, in the shape that it had evolved into. That was the thing. Like he felt that in the book, whereas this, he just kind of like he was like, I'm over it. And it kind of just lacked the same intensity for me. So when the realization came on to him at the end of the book, where he realized he was the monster now in this new world, like he was
the outlier. He was the new thing.
He was holding on to an old world view, and that world view no longer existed, and he was just a remnant of a time long gone. In the way they looked at it, and in the other way he looked at it, is that they were pretty much the reminder of what he lost. And it was like this weird kind of like other end of the spectrums, and when that realization hits him in the book, and it hits you as equally as hard when you're reading it. I thought that was fucking excellently done, and just maybe because of the film style, and it was slightly hampered by the style that was used to bring it to life, that the end for me was a little bit hammy. It's like, Noel, I don't know. I think you said before we came on here that when he chose the fucking spear and
it's just Vincent Price holding a spear.
Yeah. So it's not as it's dark because this is a rare situation, especially old school movies where bad guy wins.
Yeah,
we don't see that a lot, but at the same time, it's totally not as brutal and as worse as it could be. Yeah. Like, because what's the I think everyone said the implication in this movie that seems the darkest or the bleakest for the future is the fact that there's a baby there. Like, wait, not only
there's
is
nothing to cry about anymore,
right? I know. But like, not only is there this race of modified superior ones, they're procreating and they're going to keep going. Like, that's like, ooh, tantalizing future. But that's as far as the movie goes for it. Whereas the book is
there to go.
Yeah, the book really makes it the evilness of like, no, you're the last one of this, and you don't deserve to live, like trial and crucifixion, and like he's staring real inevitability in the face, you know.
It's like, it just shows the book really does capture the kind of like the defeated attitude that he kind of had. Like first it was like excuse me, it just like first it was all about trying to cling on to existence and how he knew it, and then it was coming to the realization that he no longer had a place in this new world, and that like he was the last man on earth. He was I am legend, I am the last human. And I just thought that was just fucking amazing to realize that you are the last member of a species. Like what kind of realization that would be like, you know. And it's just and I just think that the book captured that so well, and the movie lacked a little bit, maybe because, you know, Vincent Price, for all his qualities as an actor and a showman, he just lacked a little bit of intensity at times in the movie, and stuff we talked about when he was fighting off the vampires. You're talking about, this is a life and death situation, like not just the life and death of your person, the life and death of your fucking species. And he's exactly, and he's just floundering around the place. But apart from the hamminess and the cheesiness of it, which I totally incorporate with the era it was created in, so I'll allow that. But I just think it lacked a little bit of intensity compared to the source material. But otherwise, it's really fucking cool seeing the genesis of the zombie franchise or genre in this kind of.
Yeah, have to give it that. You have to give it that.
I do.
It didn't have the benefit of the lessons learned.
Because Romero brought it to life, brought the dead to life. You know what I mean? Like,
unhallowed be thy name, but at the same time, it's, you know, you have to give credit.
I admit, when I got done with this, I did with the book party about a year and a half ago, I did a deeper dive into Matheson, and I realized how much of his Twilight Zone history is there as a writer and screenwriter. And then he did the books for What Dreams May Come and Somewhere in Time, where I'm like, dang, the guy who did like hardcore Twilight Zone suspense and freakiness, and then this movie still had a soft spot to do like what would end up being Christopher Reeve romancing and hypnotism, and Robin Williams, you know, doing paintings and love and heaven and hell. And like, I love Matheson's big ideas and thoughts. Like he's a cool writer.
Yeah. Like, I think if you look at I Am Legend, there is a bit of a love story there, and that kind of need to be loved or whatever, in different iterations. It'll take that want humans have to be loved or to be needed. And like, you look at What Dreams May Come, and the lens. I've only seen the movie, you know, I've read the book, but the lens Robin Williams' character goes through for his wife, he literally follows her into hell, doesn't he? Like, you know what I mean? Just, you know, it just, so there's that kind of running theme that he always wanted to examine, the lens that humans will go through in their different aspects of relationships and stuff. That's what I love about when you tell a big story, but in the end of the day, it comes down to these little niche things, you know.
Yeah,
so it's very clever storytelling. But so Dom, before we let you get the fuck out here in this first episode of Purple Brain, I guess, Purple Brain. So do you have anything else you want to say about this movie? And Noel, I'll jump to you then.
No, I for 1964, for what you can get away with, it's got enough of a harrowing hook to it that keeps you involved. Super reliable score and music, because it's a other than the voiceover, it's a pretty dialogue-less movie where Paul Sottel and Burt Schefter are old school Italian filmmakers who did nice little music. It's got a nice score to it. And yeah, I mean, how can you not love Vincent Price? He gets his one laughing, cackling moment and it makes the whole movie, you know? But no, it's a good entry level thing. Like, you could show this movie to preteens and kids just to get them into horror. Like, you can put this on next to those Universal movie monsters from the 30s and 40s as an entry level thing to kind of go, hey, not only are things interesting and cool and freaky, but like, what if you had these implications of bigger themes that could, you know, bring a new person into those kinds of thoughts, those kinds of themes, without scaring the shit out of them with blood and
gateway drug.
A gateway drug for sure.
Yeah. How about you, Noel?
I think it's exactly what it is. You have, like, if you were talking to somebody about it, you say, look at it for what it is at its time. Yeah. And again, there was that hammy stage thing, which I touched on earlier, which I stand by. Yeah. I don't think it was forward thinking, but again, I don't mean that as a slight. And I don't know if Vincent Price was the right choice, but I don't know if he was the wrong choice. That's
a memorable choice.
That's the one that's gonna cost me some sleep.
Like Nicolas Cage was there.
Yeah, Vinny, when you see the Heston one, you'll be like, oh, okay, now we're getting a little too big and too star driven. You'll see that one get a little hammy.
One of my favorite science fiction movies that I've seen in the past 5 or 10 years is Silent Green. I just thought it was so bonkers, so good.
That's where he plays well, you know. Yeah.
That's a really good movie. So no, continue. Sorry.
I would say that I recommend this movie. I'd recommend to anyone that. We've gone back to the 80s and the 70s and stuff as general film fans, but the 50s was this treasure trove, which I don't know is being examined. And especially when you go to something and go, yeah, this might not be the best film ever, but you have no idea what we have now because of it.
Exactly.
You know, stuff that's like branched off in ways that even a Don Shanahan type who critiques movies wouldn't be able to spot all of the branches on the tree. It's a huge root, and a lot has sprung from it. And you just have to be grateful to it, I think. And you don't even have to try. It was a bit hammy. I mean, I enjoyed this film. I laughed at this. Yeah, more than anything else. Morgan.
You think you can stop me by destroying my car?
So I went car shopping. You know, it was just great.
I wanted to get a convertible, but I thought it would not be practical.
Now to get one kind of gas.
But I'm with you, Noel. Like, I like going back and finding and like genuflecting at those places where little things got their starts, like watching a cheesy Johnny Weissmuller Tarzan movie, or the old Tyrone Power Zorro movie, or Errol Flynn play Robin Hood. Like, without those screen heroes that are just kind of figuring it out, hammy and cheesy and colorful, but without those guys, you don't get Batman, you don't get Superman, you don't get super adventure stories, you get Indiana Jones. Like, those are the places you have to go back and tip your hat.
Yeah, my like drug of choice is science fiction movies from the mid 60s to the mid 80s. And like, I am constantly searching for new science fiction movies from that era, like, because like they have such a strange outlook on the future, and it's just so fucking awesome to go back and look at how people were looking forward all the way back then. And like, that's one thing I like about this movie, that like it kind of just gave us a glimpse of what people in the 1960s and how they viewed a post-apocalyptic world, living in the era that they came from on the back of World War II. You're talking about the early stages of the kind of Cold War era, all these kind of things. So it captured a very interesting moment in time, and how they would picture a post-apocalyptic world and how different it is to us. But even though it was very similar in a lot of ways, the gas, like bodies strewn all over the place, just the mundaneness of existence. And like, even though it is hammy, like Noel said, and it's cheesy and all these fucking things, that in the end of the day, it's a real forebear for me. And it shows you that this is kind of the birthplace of the zombie movie, even though they use the word vampires, that it's 100% a zombie movie without even knowing it was.
Yeah.
So like that's all, folks.
Yeah.
All right, folks. I'm your host, Vincent Green.
I'm your host, Noel John Tui.
And that was Last Man on Earth, and that was Don Shanahan, and this is Invasion of the Polystarters and Purple Brain, and that's the longest outro I've ever done. See you next time, motherfuckers. Peace.
Peacha.
You said peacha.
I said peach. Yeah. I don't know what I said.